Good evening and welcome to the very first Colorado Outspoken in its new hour-long format. I'm Andy Ledford. Tonight on Colorado Outspoken, we have coverage of the news that's important to the GLBT community, some insight into the issues and specifics of the gender reassignment process, a look at a hot new local area singer and songwriter, a gripping movie about a South African gangster, and our bulletin board of events and organizations that you should know about. But first, you may have noticed that we've made some changes around here, and maybe you'd like to know why. Colorado Outspoken, like the gay and lesbian community, is getting older and more mature. That evolution drove us to ask some hard questions about what we do and what contributions we make to our world. Here's Tom Biddle and a panel of knowledgeable folks to explore our changing times.
In December 1989, GLBT viewers along the Front Range turned on their TVs to KBDI Channel 12 to find a new, locally produced, all-volunteer-run news and features program just for them, the Lambda Report. That first show featured hosts Jeff Pavick and Paul Gordon seated in front of a blank wall, reading news stories from hard copy printouts, ending with 10 minutes of raw video of the Mile High Freedom Band's holiday concert that year. This somewhat inauspicious beginning was the start of the longest-running weekly gay and lesbian news program in the nation, now called Colorado Outspoken. But times change. With me this evening to discuss some of these changes are several longtime Colorado Outspoken volunteers, including my friends, Frank Berndt, former producer and anchor, Ann Lincoln, former producer, anchor, and volunteer coordinator, Ann Lincoln, and Daryl Johnson, longtime news writer and board member of our parent organization, LambdaCom. Welcome, you guys. Welcome, friends.
Thank you. Yeah.
Haven't seen some of you in a long time.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long
lot of new
time.
stuff. This is nice.
21st century, maybe?
Right.
I'm not sure. I was talking to Ann before we started taping that if you added up all of our volunteer hours and years on Colorado Outspoken, it would be a year none of us would really want to admit. It would be a generation.
It would be about a generation, yeah.
It would, really.
Many decades.
But here we are, you know, on a brand new set, on a different looking show, with a new format. It's all very exciting. And I wanted to start our discussion tonight with Daryl from the Board of Directors on what were some of the situations or maybe problems with the older format that necessitated the change.
Well, the biggest reason is we needed to better utilize our very limited resources. Producing a half-hour weekly show requires almost 2 hours of content and 4 studio rentals. Going to an hour-long monthly format, it only requires half the amount of content and a quarter the amount of studio time. It also gives us a chance to produce some promotional spots to let the viewers know what's coming up on our upcoming show so that KBDI can let our viewers know during the week previous to a broadcast what they can expect to see. It also opens up the possibility of getting into a better time slot on KBDI's lineup, switching from the 11 o'clock time slot on Sunday evenings to 10 o'clock.
Well, what are some of the benefits of that?
Well, that hopefully would increase our viewership. Increasing our viewership would make it a more attractive product to underwriters, and that in turn will hopefully attract more funding.
Well, and that funding has been a major problem. Even though we're an all-volunteer organization, it does take money to purchase our new set, for example, or equipment repairs and things like that. So it's a huge concern of ours. Well, Ann and Frank, I'll turn to you guys as older folks on the volunteer timeline, you know, and each of you have worked really closely with the volunteer forces over the years, starting back in the early 90s, and we can't run the show without volunteers. How have you seen that the atmosphere for volunteers change since the early 90s, Frank?
Well, yeah, back in the early 90s, Amendment 2, people were kind of angry. They were coming on the show. It's just in some ways like I did, angry, wanted to do something, try to make a difference. It was very difficult to keep volunteers. It still is, but back then we were doing a DCT TV. You had to be trained, you had to be certified before you could touch the equipment. The volunteers really had to give time, and we tended to burn through them because there was so much commitment every single week. And,
I think one of those thankless tasks is the volunteer coordinator.
Yeah.
I worked with a lot of them. And
Yeah, where you try and get people to come in, find out what they want to do, and it's hard. I think a lot of people have expectations about the show, either to think it's glamorous or they don't realize what kind of a commitment is, and you lose people and you don't know why, and that's frustrating. And then you get a lot of people too that are very, very committed, but it's been so hard since it's a once a week commitment. I mean, that's one reason I have to step down. I just can't do once a week, every week, all the time. But the new format, that's not going to be necessary.
so you want to have a life? I mean,
Yeah, I know, it's terrible. Career, make money, it's awful.
High expectations.
So selfish and bitchy, I don't know.
a life and volunteer. No, but I think we all agree that it's worth it, and,
Oh,
and
gosh,
you find
it's
ways
great.
to balance the life. But getting on, I've got to get to kind of a harder question now for us to talk about, and that is as times change, the world has changed around Colorado Outspoken. We've always been here, it seems, in our 30-minute format since a time when there was very little GLBT visibility on television. There was no Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. There was no L Word. There was no Will and Grace. It was really kind of a unique entity being on the air, and times have changed. So have we outlived our relevance to what we provide our community?
That's the big question.
Yeah, so Hollywood
question.
shows have kind of taken our limelight in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of hate to admit this, but I've actually dated a few guys that were in high school and remember watching me anchor the show.
Well, I don't know what that says. No, we won't go there.
But it was exciting to find out that these guys actually, they're out in Canyon City, down Pueblo, actually did watch the show, and this was their only outlet. You're right, the times have really changed. We got to figure out some way to keep up with that. Is the show
I really think there was a
relevant?
time when this show was the only way that some people in isolated communities or very young people could keep in touch with what was going on, and something that was of a great importance to them, their GLBT identity.
Yeah, I think our greatest strength is also our greatest weakness, that we're small and local, but that means that you see things small and local that everybody else on network and cable is going to miss, those kind of stories. And then also, our doors are wide open to anybody to come in and have a voice. And there's no place else that has that. I think that might be the one thing that could keep us alive.
Well, I know that in our volunteer forces over the years, we've had people who are retirement age, we've had people who are still in high school, we've had things all in between, and we'd train them right here, on site, how to run. Here's how you run a camera, here's how you do that. So it's a way for people to get involved. But it seems like there's so many ways to get involved. You've got the center, you've got all these things. And again, we want to be looking forward to the future now with our show going into this next phase. This is show 701. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
701. And we want to keep that a relevant entity in this world of high GLBT visibility.
So I think what we really need to do with this new format gives us a chance to focus on more community type stories, and perhaps select a story that we can go a little bit more in depth, where the other news outlets aren't able to produce to report it in quite the same way, where we can maybe give a little bit more perspective on it. That's the way that we can keep our relevance and keep offering a product that is of value to our viewers.
I always thought that was kind of our strong point, is that we're local, and we can follow local events. There's In the Life, there are other gay shows produced out of New York
Nationwide,
City. But the people watch the local news because they want to hear what's going on locally. Maybe it's not news that's going to sell the show anymore. Maybe that's not what they really want to see. But I think people really want to see what's going on in Denver, what's going on in Colorado.
It's an opportunity to see yourself.
You can see yourself, that's right.
Really.
See yourself.
That's right. You see our cameras wandering around Pride, smile and wave, and then watch.
Right.
They do. So.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's as we look toward the future, where it looks like we can go. We can take basically the same thing we've done before, but make it a much richer presentation for our viewership and for the community. And we hope that we can keep that relevance intact for that time.
Well, another thing we're going to have though is money. It's going to always boil down to that.
Absolutely, and I think you were talking about the better time slot
Yep.
and the more interesting and richer format. We hope can attract more underwriters who will be generous in helping keep us on the air.
We need that so badly.
And we could keep on talking about this for a long time. We've been talking about it for years and years, haven't we?
We have.
But I'm afraid that is all the time we have. We have to leave it right there. I want to thank you all for being with us. And as always, we here at Colorado Outspoken would like to hear what you, the viewers, have to say. Please send us your thoughts, questions, and opinions at 303-861-0829 or by email to feedback@coloradooutspoken.org.
News is the backbone of Colorado Outspoken, even in its new format. Here's Rick Miller to fill us in on what's happening.
The Department of Health and Human Services has removed information geared toward the LGBT population from its Substance Abuse and Mental Services Administration website. The Family Research Council sent a letter in January to Michael Leavitt, Secretary of Health and Human Services, complaining that pages on the website contained biased, politically charged language such as condemnations of so-called homophobia and sexual prejudice. We've been given 3 different answers on why the resources were removed, says Jean-Marie Navetta, media manager for parents, families, and friends of lesbians and gays. And since they all came from the same agency, it doesn't add up. The New Jersey Law Journal published an editorial recently stating its support for marriage equality. On February 15th, the New Jersey Supreme Court heard oral arguments in Lewis versus Harris, a case that will decide whether same-sex couples have a right to marry under the New Jersey Constitution. We endorse the right of people of the same sex to marry and urge the court to declare that such a right is rooted in our state constitution. The Law Journal has changed its previous position of backing same-sex domestic partnerships, but not marriage. Colorado State Senator Sean Mitchell's bill allowing unmarried people of any gender to enjoy certain marriage-like rights is considered nearly dead after anti-gay groups and some Democratic legislators worked to defeat the measure. LGBT groups want a bill expressly allowing civil unions for gays and lesbians, while groups such as the Christian Coalition said Mitchell's bill went too far. Focus on the Families' James Dobson supported the Mitchell bill, raising the ire of other conservative groups. Every year, the Gender Identity Center of Colorado sponsors the Gold Rush. This national event brings together transgendered people with doctors, therapists, and service providers in a supportive, social, and educational environment.
From across the nation, this year's Colorado Gold Rush brought together the full spectrum of people involved in the transgendered community. Vendors, service providers, doctors, educators, and friends of the community were all there.
I am Phyllis Stiegelmeyer. I am the owner of Phyllis's Fantasies, a shop that caters to the transgendered community. It's a lot of fun, meet a lot of people and see a lot of the same faces and a lot of new ones. I think it's meeting people really and seeing a lot of people that I've known before and watching them grow, seeing the differences as they get more comfortable within themselves.
I think before the mid-90s, they just didn't have like get-togethers of this sort.
My significant other is transgendered cross-dresser, and I've come the last 3 years, and this is my first year as a vendor.
My name is Bob Brownlee, and I'm the owner of Gentle Touch Laser Clinic and Day Spa.
Last time I went to a doctor in a small town. This guy looked at me, I thought he was going to have a problem. He says, no, you're my 6th transsexual I dealt with in as many years. The thing that really impressed me to tears of joy was seeing young people, teenage, with their parents or an understanding parent or guardian. You wouldn't have seen that years ago. That just moved me to tears of joy.
For Colorado Outspoken, from the Colorado Gold Rush in Denver, Colorado, this is Mark Thompson reporting.
The on-again, off-again boycott of the Ford Motor Company by anti-gay groups, such as the American Family Association, is back once more. A Ford statement said the company was proud of its tradition of treating all with respect, but Ford officials declined further comment. Clear trends towards fairness, non-discrimination, inclusion, and acceptance of gays in corporate America are unstoppable, said Brad Luna, a spokesman for the Human Rights Campaign. Catholic Charities of Boston, Massachusetts announced it will stop placing children in adoptive homes so that it no longer has to consider placing them with gay parents, which the organization says conflicts with its religious beliefs. Over the past 2 decades, more than 700 children have been adopted thanks to the group. Of those, 13 were placed in the homes of gay couples. Participants in Soulforce's Equality Ride, gay rights bus tour, were arrested at Liberty University in Virginia Beach and barred from campus at Regent University in Lynchburg, where students say they were also kept from approaching the protesters. The tour is scheduled to stop at 19 military academies and faith-based schools where Soulforce says gay students are prohibited. Regent says it does not bar students who are gay, but prohibits homosexual activity. During the last 6 months, major media companies have received attention for starting to move their own unique programming online, whether downloads for video iPods or streaming programs that can be watched over high-speed internet connections. There are thousands of producers whose programming would never make it into primetime, but who have very dedicated small audiences. It is a phenomenon that could be called slivercasting. The next wave of media is to unleash the power of serving people's special interests, said John Hendricks, the chief executive of Discovery Communications, which is developing a series of specialized video services. Colorado Outspoken is exploring this technology for our show. Hood College in Frederick, Maryland is reviewing its homecoming rules after a lesbian was crowned king, a college official said. Jennifer Jones, the 21-year-old senior who beat out 3 men for the honor, said the crowning was a positive step for the private liberal arts college. It is cool that Hood allows people to be themselves, Jones told the Frederick News Post. If people didn't want me to be king, they wouldn't have nominated me and voted for me. That's the news. I'm Rick Miller.
One of the issues that may be least well understood by the majority of people is that of gender reassignment. What is it that motivates the folks who go through this process to endure the pain, expense, uncertainty, and perhaps even embarrassment that comes with it? Fawn Oates explores this issue with 2 people who can give us some first-hand answers.
What makes a girl a girl? Is it chromosomes, genitals, or an undescribable sense of who one is? Tonight we're going to explore how we perceive gender in our culture and the present and future of the transgender movement. My guests tonight include one of the leaders in sex reassignment surgeries, Dr. Marcy Bowers. In 2003, she took over for the legendary Dr. Stanley Biber in Trinidad, Colorado. She is an OBGYN who splits her time between her practice in Seattle and her work in Colorado. Welcome, Marcy.
Well, thank you, Fawn. Glad to be here.
Excellent. We also have with us Nicole Garcia, one of our very own volunteers here on Colorado Outspoken. She has recently undergone her own sexual reassignment surgery with Dr. Bowers and is here to share her journey of gender with us. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you, Fawn. It's great to be on this side of the camera.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Nicole, why don't you start by telling us kind of how you ended up seeing Dr. Bowers? What kind of brought you to that?
Dr. Bowers attends several different conferences throughout the United States, and one here in Denver is called the Gold Rush. I met Marcy about 2 years ago at Gold Rush, and between meeting her and performing surgeries on different several of my friends, I think Marcy's done 3 surgeries on friends that I know and have gone down to see how it's all performed, and I had so much confidence in her.
So you had models for the whole process.
Yes. I saw her in action. I saw her down at the hospital after the surgeries. I've seen her work, to be very upfront. I've seen what she does, and she's very good. And she's also an incredible person.
Excellent. What made you decide to get the surgery?
For me, it was right. I adhered strictly to the Benjamin standards of care. I went through 2 years of therapy with a therapist who specializes in the transgendered issues. I also went through hormone replacement hormone replacement therapy. So I was on spironolactone to suppress testosterone. I was on estrogen and progesterone to increase the female features. And I was finally at the point where financially I could afford it, and I had reached the pinnacle of my transition where it was time. And I was lucky enough to be able to be scheduled and had my surgery on November 11th.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, Dr. Bowers, why don't you just kind of walk us through what Nicole's surgery was like?
Well, I think viewers still, despite more knowledge in the public, still have this idea that we somehow just chop off the member, if you will. So no, in contrast to popular belief, we don't use a box cutter or anything like that.
That's good.
That's a good thing. No, we remove the hormone-producing structures, the testicles, and then the part of the scrotum is used to line the inner part of the vagina, and then the penile skin is used to line the remainder. And then one thing to keep in mind is that males and females are indistinguishable anatomically up until about the early second trimester as they're developing. So the tissues in boys and girls are very similar. So simply reusing those and reassigning them in surgery is not that difficult to do, and that's really what we did in Nikki's case.
So you tried to keep as much of the tissue as you could.
That's right.
To keep the natural tissue.
We just rearranged the deck chairs pretty much. So
rearrange all the inside.
Yes, yes.
Do you find that there's a lot of your patients have a great deal of sensation when the surgery is over?
Oh yes, and again, that's an important advance that has happened along the way, is that it's recognized that if we preserve the same nerves and arteries that innervate the analogous structure in natal females, in other words the clitoris, by using part of the glands of the penis, we can keep those nerves and arteries together, and so sensation is very similar. Nothing is quite as densely innervated as the natal clitoris, but we come very close.
Excellent, I bet. Are you happy with the results?
I'm very happy. She's done a wonderful job, and there is significant sensation.
You have a good smile on your face.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, most people are more familiar with the term sex reassignment surgery, but I know you prefer genital reassignment surgery. Would you tell us a little bit about that change for you?
Well, this is a new phenomenon in society, and so I think it's important. For some reason, it seems to evoke fear in people's minds. And so really, though, for individuals who are affected by gender dysphoria, it's important to remember that an individual can't catch gender dysphoria. It invariably, when I talk to people, it is present since the very earliest age of recognition. So ages 4, 5, and 6 is typical when a person begins to feel that they really are not necessarily the gender that they were born with based on genitalia. So if you're born with a penis, Nikki, I guess, right, would you say, felt like a girl?
Exactly. But I fought those feelings tooth and nail through my entire adulthood into my 40s.
So it was really never about, it was really never about sex, it was about one's identity, and the identity is what's in your brain.
So the gender actually was very stable. That idea of gender was very stable, but the genitals changed, and that's about it.
That's right. So that's why some people call it gender reassignment surgery, but you see, gender really doesn't change if you understand that it starts from such an early age, and it's just we're realigning the genitalia.
Yeah.
So I prefer the term genital reassignment surgery, and that's beginning to catch on.
It seems more descriptive.
Exactly. It's more precise, and again, it really distinguishes between the identity in one's soul and sex. Sex is just what you do with what you're given.
And yeah, absolutely.
In expressing intimacy with another person.
Right. And that could be part of why you would want to have the surgery, to be sexually fulfilled in that way, but that is not the only reason to have the surgery by any means.
Yeah, in fact, it's probably one of the 7th or 8th down the list, really.
Right.
For most people, it's about reestablishing their identity and aligning their body with their soul. And for almost everyone that I've come in contact with, there is a tremendous improvement in one's self-esteem when they go through the process of surgery.
Well, it seems like we're in a culture of perfection. I mean, we want to fix everything that we see as imperfect. Do you think that this surgery is the fix to transgenderism? You say no, Nicole, why not?
No, I would say no, because it's just one step in a process. Transgenderism causes several problems. A lot of transgender people I know suffer from depression, suffer some substance abuse in an effort to get away from who they are, to try and mask who they are. So what going through therapy helps people take away the layers, take away the fear, take away the guilt that you feel, because recognizing the feelings I had, I suffered tremendous guilt for many years. I could not be like this. And I was a good Catholic boy. I prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed, and it never went away. So it wasn't, having the surgery didn't cure anything, it didn't change anything. I felt I had gone through my transition before I had surgery. I had lived as a female for almost 2 years before I had surgery. My coworkers had accepted me, my family had accepted me, and the surgery was just another step. It didn't change anything for anybody else but me. Because walking around on the streets, I can't tell what your genitalia is from here. So very, very, very few people will ever see my genitalia, because it's mine, and I'm not going to be showing it off all over the place, because it's not what people do. And in fact, most of the time it's against the law. So, you know, this surgery was strictly for me, not for anybody else.
But you mentioned the word perfection, and I think, you know, I think that becomes the holy grail for many people. Is, you know, we all want to be the best people we can possibly be.
Sure.
And what is common to the histories of transgendered people is that they grow up in a life that is based on deception and denial of oneself. And so Nikki mentioned issues of drug abuse, substance abuse, passive suicidal ideation. People take very high-risk professions as a way to escape, you know, the reality of dealing with who they are. So what the surgery really does for those people is alleviate that suffering. And so I mentioned, you know, so they do improve, and they are getting closer to perfection in their own minds. Again, it raises one's self-esteem.
Do you think that that can grow into an obsession of sorts, where it's not only changing the body, changing the face, changing everything? Do you think that that can go overboard at all?
Well, I think that's just an extension of the many of the societal excuse me. I think that's one of the problems with female expectations in society.
Sure.
In that there's such a focus for women on beauty that you know, repeated surgeries, plastic surgery or whatever, can for some people get out of hand. Where, you know, where one surgery simply isn't enough, and then they want to lift this and reduce that and suck this out, and you know people where they can't stop and they continue to get more and more surgery. But that's true whether it's a transgendered female or a natal female as well.
Absolutely. Excellent. Well, Nicole, you said something about people can't tell just by looking, or, you know, you can't tell what your genitalia looks like. And it seems that most of the people I encounter say, well, I've never met anybody who's transgender, I've never even seen somebody who's transgender. So the community itself seems almost invisible. Why do you think that is?
Well, a lot of transgender females, once they have surgery or once they get to a point in their transition where they're adequately passable, frequently go what we call stealth, where they're able to change their driver's license, where they have a female name on their license, they have a female picture on their license, and they have an F with a little section where it says sex. And they're able to do everything they can not to let anybody find out that they used to be a man. Or, on the other side, that they used to be a woman. Because there are female to male transsexuals, and they pass just as well as male to females, if not better.
Do you think that hurts the community in some way?
I think so, because you don't know that the person working behind the counter at Target is a transgendered female or a transgendered male. It's just another individual. So that way, so many people in society don't know that their neighbor is a transgender person, or that the person sacking their groceries or drilling their teeth or giving out their drugs at the pharmacy is a transgender person.
It seems very similar to the gay and lesbian community in that you can very easily pass, or some people can pass. And because of that, a lot of times people don't realize how many of us there are out there.
And that just comes out of fear.
Yeah.
Fear to be different. Sometimes people will come out that they are transgendered and they lose their jobs. They lose friends, they lose family. It is a big change for a lot of people. And fear causes people to try and go stealth or hide it for so many years.
More so than any other minority group. There's a tremendous penalty in society for outing yourself as a transgendered person today.
Right.
I mean, hopefully it's getting better because there's more understanding about the process.
And you've been very public with your own transition in gender. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I am, and I was and I wasn't. I transitioned publicly in a very large multi-specialty clinic in downtown Seattle as a practicing OBGYN. So you can imagine that was about like that was received like when Kennedy was shot. I mean, it was people knew exactly where they were when it happened, when they received my letter. And in fact, the funniest story I had about that was a patient of mine who received my letter saying I was transitioning from male to female, and she started screaming so loud that her cable repair guy fell off the roof and into some rose bushes. So there were people that used to, for years, they would come in and say, "Oh, I got your letter at such and so, and I was doing this." You know, it was really something.
So it seemed like very shocking to most people.
It wasn't. People just they didn't really read it until it was right in front of them. But by the end, I literally couldn't pass as a male if I tried to in public, except for people that knew me as I was, and it's funny, they just didn't see it.
Amazing.
Yeah, but after a time, word of my background, I didn't wear a sign or anything around my neck, and I didn't wear, a necklace or anything saying I was transgendered. I was just a woman OBGYN, and I had a good reputation, and so eventually my patients, through attrition or whatever, there's just turnover patients, I had easily 60% of my practice really didn't know my background by the end. So, and then I came out, as you would say, by assuming the roles of a transgendered surgeon, because there was no one behind great people like Dr. Stanley Biber, Dr. Schrang, and a few of the others who have courageously stepped out and done this surgery. There really, in this country, were very few surgeons. So someone needed to come in behind them, and then of course now with my public appearances and what have you, pretty much my laundry is, out there for everyone to see.
Well, and you've put a face on transgenderism, as well as every other part for a lot of people.
A face and a bottom.
A face and a bottom. And so in a lot of ways, I think you're a role model for people who are wondering whether or not to come out, because you've had fairly good positive responses. Though negative ones, I'm sure as well.
It's hard. It's very hard living as a transgender person, and I think the most disappointing part about it for me, I really don't care. I'm a woman, and I really don't consider myself transgendered anymore. 10 years ago, yes, that's when I was going through it, but I'm a woman, and that's because society sees me as a woman, and I'm treated in every way as a woman because I'm a woman. And but when people know that you're a transgendered woman, suddenly it just subtly, some people, many people, just treat you a little bit differently. You're just not on the same equality plane as someone who is born female.
That's what I find so amazing about transsexual people in general, is that you get to see both sides. You get to see what it's like to be a man. You get to see what it's like to be a woman, for better or for worse, the pros and the cons. Did you feel like it influenced or affected your practice?
Oh, no question. I mean, that was, it's interesting. But I mean, as you say, we have a two-gendered perspective that is very, very powerful, and it's very instructive for society. You know, I happen to believe it's a very positive direction for society to explore, and I believe it's a sign that society is beginning to mature and explore deeper and more complicated aspects of human behavior. So I really see it as a positive movement and positive direction that people are coming out and going this way. But my practice did change, and it has a lot to do with women's perceptions of their doctor and women's role in society. And as a non-transsexual, as a biological male, and I was kind of a golden boy in my little clinic and department chairperson and very well thought of, but I was a very busy surgeon. And it was interesting to me that my surgical practice was absolutely thriving, one of the busier in Seattle prior to transition. But after transition, my patient mix changed such that more younger women came to me, and women who wanted me as their caregiver and their obstetrician, but not necessarily as their surgeon.
Unbelievable.
Isn't that funny? It's just, so it's changing. I mean, women are now assuming more of a role in society, and you can see it shifting. It's okay now but there's still a glass ceiling,
Right. The glass ceiling is still there.
Oh, yes.
And becomes really apparent when you've made that transition.
Very apparent. So many things, so many aspects. I'm sure, Nikki, you've had occurrences. You know, people now, I find people will honk on me on the freeway much more readily when they see, you know, long blonde hair, you know. I just kind of wave and, you know, it's just another ditzy blonde moment, but no, but a lot of changes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, what do you see as the future of the transgender movement?
Well, I'm working and pushing to get transgender people to recognize who they are publicly. I work a lot with the Democratic Party, Stonewall Democrats, specifically Transgender Caucus, to try and let the political parties know that we're out here and we are a force to be reckoned with. I'm also working Outspoken. I love this program. I watched it before, and then I became a part of it, and working with the people behind the cameras, working with you, yelling at you as a floor director. I think you found out that, you know, I'm just another person, and that's what really matters. And trying to get more transgender people to come out and say, yes, I am a transsexual, or yes, I am a crossdresser, or yes, I am intersexed. That it's not anything to be ashamed of. It's who you are, accept it, be proud, and come out and be a part of society.
Absolutely, and the more people that come out, the easier it's going to be for the people who are after them.
Exactly.
Well, it's very, as you say, it's very important to continue to bring the message to people, to reach people wherever they are. We hope all people listen. Of course, so many people have their, their eyes closed and their mind made up. But little by little, it is working. I think the thing I fear most, though, is the current backlash we've had a little bit against the LGBT movement from the religious conservatives who use biblical hypocrisy to justify bigotry against alternatively gendered or sexed people.
And it seems as civil rights movements go on, you do get more backlash the farther ahead you get, so maybe it's a good sign.
Yes, that's right. Well, Woodrow Wilson actually, not that I'm a great, name dropper historian, but he actually gave his last speech in Pueblos. This is how I happen to know this, but he said great causes have great enemies.
Absolutely.
He wasn't exactly a champion of women's rights, but that phrase kind of sticks with me.
You described it well. Well, thank you both for joining us tonight, and it's been wonderful to sit with you and talk with you, and I hope you come back.
Well, thank you, Fawn. I enjoyed the visit.
And I'll be back behind the cameras next time.
Absolutely. That's it for us tonight. Thank you. Bye-bye.
No one can know everything that goes on in our community. There's just too much happening. That's why we try to keep you up to speed with the bulletin board. That's coming up right now. There are some hot new gay musicians and singers in Denver, and here's our entertainment guy, Mark Thompson, to tell us about one of them.
I'm not just a movie fan, I'm also a music and arts fan, and there's a lot of great queer artists out there. I recently sat down with Joshua Novak, a local alternative pop musician, to talk about his life and music. So, Joshua, what is your background? Where are you from?
I was born and raised in Denver, so I don't know. Kind of never, you know, with everybody leaving, I kind of can't find a good reason myself to, so I'm a big fan of Denver right now.
So what type of music would you call what it is that you do?
Indie rock, mostly.
Sometimes you get the indie folk thing,
which is not true at all. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's in other states or not, but it seems like automatically here, if, you know, people hear that you're just, you know, it's your name, and you play an acoustic guitar sometimes, like then you're automatically folk, or, you know, and it's just, it's not true. You know what I mean? we had a band name, an actual band name, people wouldn't say that, I feel like, because it's just almost a matter of that. But I refuse to change those things just to satiate other people's idea of what we should be, or, you know, so it's going to get it through their minds that we're Joshua Novak and we're rock.
Well, because having seen you guys perform, it's a pretty high energy show, terrific songs, and it's definitely not folk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd hate to disappoint the folksters who would come down and, you know.
Yeah, there's times they might need earplugs.
Yeah.
Not always, but there are times. So who are your influences?
Kind of all over the place. A lot of British stuff like PJ Harvey, Radiohead, Suede, a band called Interpol, David Bowie, Rufus Wainwright.
Do you consider yourself a queer artist?
Not strictly so. I have never personally listened to or bought music, you know, because somebody was gay or not gay. Same way that I wouldn't want people to necessarily do that with me. You know, I feel like you know, you like it because it's good or not good, you know, or whatever your idea of that is. But, you know, strictly being considered a queer artist, you know, I don't think I'd really know what that means.
Yeah. But I might say that not only now, but as you move up the musical ladder, so to speak, there are going to be queer people, especially young people, that look up to you, and as a queer artist, what advice might you give them for somebody starting out?
I kind of feel that, you know, in my own musical career and even my life, that, you know, I've never done something because of maybe a certain social attitude or because of my sexuality. It's always been maybe what's been going on musically or what I was inspired by. And so I think that I would just say, you know, in that way, to kind of, I don't know, you know, whether it is, you really want to, you know, be open, you know, and be, you know, really honest about your sexuality, or, you know, you don't want to do that, you know, just don't feel any pressure to do any one thing, you know, and just kind of do what you feel. And, you know, I feel a lot of pressure sometimes, you know, it's like you're not gay enough or you're not straight enough, and, you know, so I don't know, I think it just, you know, do what you want to do, and to hell with everybody else.
So do you have any upcoming shows?
Tentatively, we have one on the 22nd of April, I want to say, at the Climax Lounge, which is a great room. I've always wanted to play there, so this will be the first time we do. And we're playing with a band called Reminisce, and they're really great and really nice guys, and they asked us to play. And then Kit, our drummer, kind of booked us a show playing at the Walnut Room with Andy Monley. And I think that's in May sometime. Kind of not sure about the exact date, but a couple things coming up. So.
You have a new CD coming out, or you're working on a new CD, I
Yes.
should say. Tell us about that.
We are looking to release it probably late May, early June, and we have probably another month or two of overdubbing with guitars and vocals, and then we have to get it mixed and mastered and all the artwork and stuff. So
you're shooting for a release date of what?
Just to be safe, you know, somewhere around June, just in case, you know.
Are there other arts that you engage in? Drawing, acting?
I did the whole acting thing in high school and stuff, and I haven't really touched that since. I don't know, I kind of like to stick with my strengths. I remember I was doing an improv group once, and I was mysteriously let go.
From improv? You didn't improv enough, yeah.
So I'm not an improver, but yeah. But I like to draw and paint and do those things. Just because I like those things. Not because I'm forcing myself to be this creative person. It's what the stuff I do. You know what I mean? It's the stuff I do.
If people want to know when your CD is available, or when you get some of these upcoming shows nailed down, where would they go to find out about you?
We can go to a couple of places. We work with a couple people who do PR for us. Katie and Christy, and they work for Population Concerts, and they can be found at www.populationconcerts.com, and they sell merchandise for us there, t-shirts and CDs, and then they also have show dates and photos, and you can buy tickets on there, so it's kind of an all-purpose site for anything that you'd want to know or buy from us.
If they go to the site, then what do they do? Just put in your name? Or?
Yeah, there's a little icon that will say bands, and you click on that, and then we're off to the side, and you just click on us, and it will give you everything you need to know.
And then another
one is our MySpace page, and that's a little bit more, it has our bio, and it has song samples, MP3s, and pictures and things, and that's just myspace.com/Joshua Novak, and you can go there, and that will have show dates, and that will probably be more updated with CD information and stuff, and our little blog area will kind of keep that. But
thanks for coming and talking to us. We really appreciate it, and hopefully some people will see this and get out and see your shows and get your CD, which I highly recommend both.
Yeah,
really do.
Thank you very much.
All work and no play can make Jack a dull boy, even if he is 25 and really cute. So make time for some play and take Jack to a movie. Here's our entertainment guy, Mark Thompson, to tell you about a good one.
Getting more than you bargained for is the overarching theme in this beautifully photographed Academy Award-winning film from South Africa, Tsotsi. Tsotsi means thug or gangster and is also the street name of the main character in this film. Orphaned at an early age, Tsotsi has clawed his way to adulthood alone and with little regard for the feelings of others. An ill-fated carjacking gets Tsotsi a BMW and a screaming hungry baby. After his attempts to care for the child fail miserably, he forces a young mother to breastfeed his baby at gunpoint. Though terribly frightened at first, she gradually takes on the role of both mother and mentor. Tsotsi is compelled to confront his own violent nature and to reveal his past.
He lives in a place without hope, where life has no meaning, and survival is the only thing that matters. But in one moment, his life will be changed forever. Now, the past he had forgotten will give him hope for a future he could never have imagined.
For a free pair of tickets to the feature, call us on the movie line at 303-861-0829, and if you are callers 9 through 18, we'll get you a pair of tickets to see Tsotsi.
That's all we have time for in this edition of Colorado Outspoken. We'd really like to hear from you on what you feel about our new format. So give us a call at 303-861-0829 or email us at feedback@coloradooutspoken.org. Please remember that you can watch this entire show again online on our website. We'll see you again next month in our new 10 o'clock p.m. Sunday night time slot on April 30th. Until then, thanks for joining us. I'm Andy Ledford. Good night.